Hello, my name is Evie and welcome back to Overwatch Everyday, the series where I play 1 to 5 ranked games each day and I explain my thought process that gets me up to champ on all roles throughout the video. But for our first game today, we're mixing things up a bit. I'll be watching back the replay code of the game that we played and explaining my thought process like normal, but for some ideas, I'll showcase what it looks like from a different perspective, from a top-down area, and how my space control or positioning will actually affect the map and my teammates. After the first game, it'll be live commentary just like usual. So, with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Alright, hello! Welcome to the first fully dubbed game of Overwatch Everyday. Getting right into it here, we selected Domina due to our team comps. Leaning a little bit more into like a sort of pokier direction with our Sojourn and our Cassidy being double hit scan, so having a shield for them to play around would be really good. We see Genji go down on right side, so we want to immediately take the space. Trying to stop the Mercy res if possible, but unfortunately they will get it off. So we're just going to be chilling, waiting for our next shield. But as Ana goes down, it'll enable us to actually play a little bit more aggressively, and we step onto their front line, trying to poke out their Zarya. So since we have such an advantage, we just want to try to be cutting off as many people as we can who could potentially win the fight for their team. And we will be successful in doing so, finding the kill onto their Sojourn and taking a really quick and easy first fight. So thinking about this next area, because especially our team doesn't have many resources to take space, to actually like try and earn space into their team composition. And the second point being so oppressive for the attackers, we want to be using the cap that we just earned on first point and the space that we just made based off of sending them back to spawn to try to take as much space as we can in the castle side. But unfortunately their hog is going to slowly earn back that space, finding a nice hook onto our team, and our life weaver will go down fairly shortly after. So since we don't have the space to necessarily fight the high ground, we're just going to be playing on the low ground, pushing the cart the best we can and finding the kill onto the Mercy. Unfortunately not able to deny the res, so since they have all the space around us, we are completely surrounded. We just want to be chilling, or going for like an aggressive play, trying to find whatever kills that we can, but we'll go down very shortly after. Thinking about ults this fight, we have our Domina ult, and as well as we have both of our DPS and our support ults coming up pretty soon. But as two of our teammates go down, we just want to be like chilling. Main thing about Domina ult is it's going to be really good to cut off any sort of like huge threat that the enemy team is making, at least for a few seconds. Or it can cut off the healing of somebody who's a little bit overextended into your space. So immediately like basically putting a shield on top of them will make it very strong to actually take space. So we use our tree, but they immediately counter with whole hog to take it down. So it's going to make it kind of hard for us to walk here. Very okay. We just want to chill. We never want to like force any like huge opportunity, but as we get hooked in and we mirror our overclocks from their team, we're going to go for our Domina ult onto the Sojourn, but just fall a little bit short. And as their Sojourn and their Cassidy walk in, we will be falling very shortly after. We weren't able to take the effective space that we really needed on that high ground on top of the castle, so it's going to make it kind of hard. So we're swapping ball here. Domina's just really hard because they don't have that sort of space taking utility, but with Wrecking Ball we're going to be able to exploit a lot of the different parts of the map. So we go for a hit onto the high ground and just pressuring out the Ana. Us pressuring the Ana is actually going to make it a lot harder for the people who are chilling at the choke, trying to stuff our teammates to actually like play the game, because if the Ana's not able to heal them, then it'll be much better for us. But as their Sojourn is falling low HP outside of their support's LOS, and their Ana ends up missing their sleep dart, we can find a really nice easy slam onto them, and then we clean up the Roadhog very shortly after, putting us in a very good spot to actually like win that fight and then hold the rest of this point. I like staging above them just because it will enable us to get a very free slam off, as well as we maintain our grapple to follow up or look for any boops later. I overcommit just a little bit here, thinking that I'd be able to find the kill onto the Mercy, but we just don't have enough ammo, unfortunately. But thinking about this next point is actually going to be fairly important. Now, Wrecking Ball is one of the heroes that actually has one of the highest mobilities kits in the game. So we want to be scouting where the enemy team is the best that we can. And now that we are forcing the point, while our team is stuffed at that choke like we were sort of talking about a little bit earlier and we experienced on Domina, us going onto the point as Wrecking Ball is now going to pressure the people who are using the or stuffing the choke to actually back up, and now we're able to swing through after we baited them into our range to find a kill onto their Sojourn. And now we're continuing to make space, since if the high ground is what's so oppressive and makes it really difficult to walk through these areas, through these choke points, us forcing the point back here will mean that they have to drop off the high ground, have less resources to actually spam out our walk on point. So now that the Roadhog dropped, we saw that the Roadhog fell off of the high ground, we have this completely for free and we're able to take it and fight the rest of this point now that our team is able to walk out of the choke rooms and we have the space to actually play around. So our Sojourn gets into an amazing position with Overclock, and as our team is getting super active, we want to be looking for hits onto their backline after we already made the space. So our Sojourn's going in, but now if we are pressuring their Sojourn and the Mercy, it's going to make it way harder for their Sojourn to actually be able to win the 1v1 against our Sojourn, because they have a ball on them. We just killed their Mercy pocket, and we're going to be making this a very advantaged fight for our team, utilizing our mobility to force the enemy into a bad spot, since we couldn't win that fight head on. If we looked for a hit onto the high ground, that was sort of like stuffing us in that sort of choke space, we would probably lose that, because they have that Cassidy, they have that Roadhog, and we saw a little bit earlier on the fight against the Cassidy and the Mercy, if we overstay our welcome, if we try to take a raw numbers trade on Wrecking Ball, it's very likely that we'll just lose, since we don't actually output that much damage. We don't have that much like raw HP compared to other tanks. So we just want to be fully utilizing our mobility. So as I see them all stacked here and committing their ultimates like Nano Boost, I want to be matching my Minefield onto their ultimates to try and find some kills here. So we want to be focusing their Ana, especially because even though their Sojourn is going to be the one doing most of the damage, is going to be the main threat. Because if we don't look at the Ana first, it's going to make it so that their Sojourn would be a lot harder to kill later, as well as Sleep Dart is the main threat to us. We're going to have enough HP and mobility to get out if their Sojourn wants to try to blow us up, but if we get hit by Sleep Dart, it'd be the end of the world. But taking a little bit of an exchange on the front line, I want to be staging behind them with the exact same idea of if I hit their back line and then use my mobility to cut off the people inside of us, it's going to create an advantage duel for our team. So their Brigitte is going down and their Orisa is forced to use all of the cooldowns because we briefly peeled all of the attention away from the enemy Orisa, which will mean that we are in a very good spot. And we do the exact same thing here. So the Orisa falls very low, is forced to use their gold and their spin, and is now in a very weak position due to us pressuring their backline at the right time as their Orisa was being aggressive into our team, but they don't have the mobility necessarily to get out. They are forced to use all of their big cooldowns, which will make it so that they're holding our space a lot weaker later in the fight. And then we turn around, try to clean up the Orisa, and we are successful in doing so. Having our Minefield on board means that we're going to be able to put it on the point. We see their Sojourn OC, which is going to be the main threat. As Brig is on point though, and I put my Minefield down, if I'm able to clear their Brigitte, it will force the Sojourn to walk into my Minefield on the point, which will be a really bad spot for them, and they won't be able to get the value out of their OC. So we will be winning that point fairly convincingly. The second point we struggled a little bit, but the swap to Wrecking Ball and utilizing our mobility to force the enemy out of good spots for them and making it so that they have to give up the power positions on the map and giving our own team the opportunity to sort of take them is going to be what wins us that point in a very strong fashion. So getting into this next round here, we see the Zarya walking main, and they have a Zarya, Juno, Cassidy. Zarya and Cassidy are going to be fairly scary heroes for us, because if they get in, then it's going to be a very bad spot for us. Their comp is going to favor a lot of sort of close range, big number exchanges. So we want to be playing a lot more for our range, slowing down the Cassie and the Zarya, who are going to be their biggest damage dealers on their team, because if they get inside of their effective ranges, it's going to be very scary for our team. But we have a shield, we have our own range damage, and we have our hands and rocks to try to slow them down and prevent them from getting into the spaces that they really want to be. So as soon as I see them walking up here, I'm just going to be backing up and trying to shoot out all of the big threats that we can. Genji is going to be one of the main openers for their comp, so utilizing our damage onto the Genji as well is going to be fairly strong. But we find a nice rock onto their Juno on the walk up, which is going to make their Zarya fairly low as well as commit their bubble. And our team is able to follow up with a really nice pinch from right side, which will make it so that we can win this fight very early. Trying to find the cleanest, but a little bit late to do so. It's going to be a-okay. We have our Flux online fairly soon, and our Sojourn finds another amazing kill onto their Freya, and we are able to clean up the Genji as well. Every time that their Genji gets forced out, it's going to mean it's very hard for their team to do things, because their Genji is going to be the main person with mobility on their comp. If their Genji is allowed to sort of dash in, use their deflect and their higher movement speed to just sort of get out after they force a bunch of our attention, then it's going to be really bad for us. It'll enable their brawlers to walk up. But their Zarya is walking towards us, so we're going to just match that with Flux, trying to slow them down the best that we can, and it will enable our team to get some of our own support ults off. But unfortunately, our tree will be kind of keeping our supports in that little room. So I'm looking for an aggressive play onto their backline, but I miss all of the shots that I really needed to hit. And my backline will be going down, trying to just survive the longest that I can on the point, but we will be going down in just a second here. With our Cassidy falling as well, that will be the point flipped in the enemy team's favor. I had to go for that play on the Kiriko as our team was sort of outside of the fight for a very long time, and we were down one. So trying to turn around the advantage that the enemy team had in any way that we could was going to be probably the play I felt most comfortable in making. But I just messed up mechanically. I didn't hit the shots I needed to hit to kill the Kiriko, and things were going to be really rough. As their Widowmaker goes down, I'm going to be taking a little bit more space and trying to pressure out this Zarya who's lurking inside of Castle. If we let that Zarya lurk there for too long, it's going to be really bad. But as Dragon Blade comes out onto us, our Life Weaver hits an amazing pull to keep us safe and alive. Unfortunately, missing the rock onto the Genji means we're not going to be able to find the kill that we really wanted. Sojourn on that bottom main area. Genji walking up onto us. We can look for another rock, and we are able to hit it and then find the kill very shortly after, but we are putting ourselves in a very bad position to do so. But our Life Weaver gripped us out. I was thinking in terms of my escape route there. I was going to drop to the low ground and look to go into the little mega room under, but with our Life Weaver dropping us, they're pulling us out, it's going to not be necessary, and we hit an amazing Ajax onto the Juno. Our Sojourn's really doing a lot this game. As Genji sort of walks in, we're going to be whiffing our rock yet again. Unfortunately, Sojourn and the Kiriko sliding onto us, they use their Kitsune Rush. So I'm going to be matching it with my Flux immediately, making sure that they're not able to get as much off of that Kitsune as possible. But we missed yet another rock, and since I'm feeling really... I'm not hitting the shots that I need to find value on the Sigma, I'm going to end up swapping to Ramatra here, seeing if we can get another contest on this third point, but unfortunately we will be just a little bit slow in doing so. So playing on this third point, our Ramatra is going to be able to allow us to actually brawl a little bit more, fight those closer range fights, and it's going to be a little less mechanically intensive, because if we miss our shots, that's okay, because we're still going to have our Ramatra form and our uptime to sort of help out with that. As we lose our armor and their Genji is on a pretty good angle to our right, we just want to be holding block and chilling the best that we can. Since we got an advantage, I wanted to see if I could extend it a little bit to see if I could punish the Juno who's a little bit too close. But unfortunately, that will not be possible for us. Zarya's inside of our space, so I'm going to see if I'm able to sort of poke her out the best I can. Knowing that they have grab, I wanted to see if we could get a nice tempo play onto them. But they are going to get their grab off as well as their overclock, putting us in a pretty rough spot as their Sojourn's just trying to walk in. I want to find this trade, but I'll be unsuccessful in doing so. They used 2 ultimates, and we matched with our 2 ultimates as well, utilizing our Kitsune Rush and our overclock. But since they found a nice grab in a pretty rough spot for us, it's going to mean that we are forced to reset. Walking into this next fight, we're pretty close to our Matra ult, and since their Genji is going to be the main opener of their comp, and we know that they have Dragon Blade, we want to really be forcing out the Genji the best that we can, because if they're able to get a good blade off, then it's going to be a really rough for us. But we fall fairly low, and as their Dragon Blade comes out, I'm going to be popping my Ramatra ultimate to try and stop it. But with the Kitsune Rush, I'm forced to use block to just zone their team completely. Understanding when you have pretty strong numbers as a ground tank is going to be a very important aspect to understand. Because looking at this fight from a different perspective, I saw with the idea that we want to be stopping this Genji the best that we can. Since their Genji walks into our backline trying to find their damage onto our team, the main thing that we want to be doing as a tank, since if we couldn't turn around, we couldn't match the Genji's mobility, they're just a little bit too fast for us, but we can walk up and zone out their backline. So now, with their Kiriko being 200 HP as well as their Juno, if we're holding block and keeping ourselves in a lethal position for a long time, their Juno is not able to walk past to get a good LOS onto their Genji, neither is their Kiriko. Their Zarya maybe could, but it's still going to be a little bit scary since once they pass us, then we have a freeze-like chance to just sort of blow up their backline. So utilizing our HP and our big threat of our numbers, of our actual brawl, to keep the enemies out of the plays that they want to follow up on is going to be a very important thing to be remembering as a ground tank or as a Vendetta, as a Reaper, anyone who has a pretty good like brawl phase. If you like winning those close range exchanges but you don't have that much mobility, that's going to be a concept that you can apply in a lot of different places of just zoning the backline to allow you to actually like win. Or like stop a lot of ultimates that you can't directly deal with. But with their Genji going in and the Ray coming out, we're going to be on the back foot for quite some time now. Unfortunately, we got a lot of our cooldowns forced fairly early, trying to save our Cassidy, which will be putting us in a very bad spot to actually deal or respond to those ultimates, since we don't have the resources to sustain them, and we will be going down and going into the extra rounds. They had 40 extra seconds on the clock, and with them being on that Zarya and that Juno and Weeying, I think that the brawl of the Ramatra felt fairly good, and it was very nice for us to be able to run down their team. So we're speccing even more into that brawl aspect with the Mauga, who's going to have some of the highest number trades in the game. So with their Zarya chilling on main, I'm going to be looking for a step and a pin onto their Zarya, committing my shout here, trying to blow them out the best I can. And since I see my team is on an angle left side and will have LOS, I'm able to continue pushing the main and forcing them into my DPS's LOS, who took that left side. Since I still had the resources, I was getting healed up on the right lane, I could continue pushing them further and further into my team's LOS, which will allow us to find the kills that we really wanted. I see my Cassidy fighting someone, so I just want to go over to help the best that I can. But since we are in overtime and the enemy team respawned or died fairly early before we actually got the cap on the point, we're not going to be able to take castle like we were talking about earlier. So we want to make sure that we're just forcing them to walk into our brawl on the point. Since we like these close range fights a lot and Overwatch is an objective based game, we can just be sitting on the point and forcing them to walk towards us the best that we can. As we see their Zarya a little bit extended, we want to be going for a pin onto them, but they will have their bubble to sort of mitigate it. I want to be very careful of potentially a Genji flank on the left, and that is going to be why their Genji finds a kill onto our Cassidy, and I believe that they have Blade fairly soon. So I want to be making sure that Genji's marked the best that we can. Life Weaver tree comes out from our team, and we find a slam onto the Genji, utilizing the extra overhealth from tree to be safe despite us being within most of their team's LOS. Trying to find a burn onto the Life Weaver, but the grab comes out. Our Life Weaver pulls us out, and the Zarya walks forward, But Barrage trying to blow up their backline is successful in doing so. Their Sojourn will go down. Their Zarya walks a little bit forward, and we will be winning that fight through an amazing ult trade and a great pull from our Lifeweaver. Now, thinking about this next fight, I'm not taking any extra space because if we let their team with a little bit more mobility actually get onto the point, they might just kill whoever is pushing for us. Since I'm a tank and I have a lot of HP, I want to make sure I'm the one who is on the point since I won't be able to be blown up. I'm expecting an Ana, but I was not expecting a Mauga. And with the Mauga is going to force me to pin. So now putting my cage on the point, they're going to have Ray and their anti-nade to match it, which will completely counter our self-healing, and we will be going down halfway through second point. Definitely not a bad push whatsoever, but not the greatest one of all time, and will be putting us in a little bit of a scary spot for our defense here. We're going to have about 2 chances to actually hold this point, and we don't have much leeway to really mess it up. So we're going to be going Mauga yet again, as this brawl has been working out for us in quite a few clutch fights. This aspect and this value that we play for, like our close range big number exchanges, is going to be working out, and I want to continue playing for it, especially since we saw them leaning a bit more into that like Zarya and the Genji area. Is going to be rather difficult to execute into their Mauga. So I see their Zarya overextending or walking a little bit outside of their support area, so I was going to see if I'd be able to catch them out inside of the mini room. Since Mauga versus Zarya, our Mauga is just going to have more DPS. We want to see if we can actually just take that raw 1v1, since that'll be very, very favored for us. As Zarya's on that high ground, there's not going to be much that I can do, so I'm going to look for a play onto their Ana, and we are able to find a nice slam. But unfortunately, a lot of our teammates are going to go down in the meantime. So now that we force out the Ana, we know that their Juno is not going to have anyone to help heal them. So we're going to be trying to burn them, because any burn on a support that is not going to get other healing is going to be very, very, very valuable, as their HP slowly takes down, and it's going to be harder and harder for them to do their job. So Juno walks into our Cassie's LOS. They are going to fall. But unfortunately, I will go down very shortly afterwards as well, and the enemy team's Genji will come back to win this fight. Looking about a 1 to 2 fight area here, we want to be making sure that we're actually farming our cage the best that we can, and controlling the space to stuff them inside of this room the best that we can. Knowing that they were on Genji, I'm expecting a Nano Blade, I think, fairly soon, which is going to be a very big win condition for their team, and something that we need to actively consider how we want to play around. So I'm going to be dropping to this low ground to stop the cart, ready to pin out, but as our Lifeweaver uses their tree, I wanted to actually follow up on that. But since their overclock was nanoed and they were going to be in a great spot to actually try to kill our teammates, I want to just use my K's to shield them off and deny the potential value that ultimate can get, and then getting onto the Juno a little bit later to make sure that we are able to kill the person on the point that we need to, and their Zarya will go down, and we will be winning that game. I think that the main idea that won us that game was going to be recognizing that the brawl was getting a lot of value, as well as utilizing our brawl potential and our big numbers on Ramatra to zone out their team to stall for time, as well as the wrecking ball to open up second point when we were in such a dangerous spot and we weren't able to get into a good spot with our Domina to actually brawl out their team, making it so that we were able to actually open up the map and get our team into good positions. Utilizing our mobility was definitely going to be the play that would win us that game. So that out of the way, let's get into the next game, which is going to be live commentary and the normal Overwatch Everyday we're used to. A Mauga and a cat. I think that I'll be leaning into Hazard a little bit here. They're going to be on a Mauga, which is going to be making our Hazard a little bit more difficult. Mauga is going to be fairly good into Hazard. So I'm just going to be using my cat's mobility to get onto the point here, since I'm not able to fight that 1v1 against that Hazard on the front line. But I can potentially follow up on these hits that my Sombra's going for. Sojourn is main. And so now I'm going to be using my wall to cut them off from the healing, and as soon as their echo tries to peel, since my Sombra's in a very good spot to sort of help me out with that, it'll be looking like a very clean fight. Thank you for the follow, Stormy. I don't know how to pronounce the full thing. As their on-run is sort of walking up, I want to be using my wall to cut off any of their exit paths, and as their Sojourn slides, I'm going to because I thought that they were going to be kind of alone. I was not expecting their Mauga to walk onto the high ground. But alas, we are still able to find our exit frag onto that Sojourn though. So, looking at where they're playing, their Mauga gets very low, so I'm going to be trying to cut off their healing with my wall. Seeing if I can find that kill, but unfortunately they are going to get pulled out. Mauga stepping on the point again. Since they're low HP, I probably can win this numbers trade, especially with my wall cutting off their healing. And now taking this pedal up to the Life Weaver, making sure that I'm able to sort of chase them down the best that I can. Mercy going to the skybox, and we are going to be able to clean that up as well. We have our spikes for this next fight here, which will probably enable us to win, but they do have a lever, which is very unfortunate. Main thing that we want to be thinking about when they have a lever is that we just want to be, oh my god, oh my god. We know that the Life Weaver's up here, and because we saw them go to assist the cage with the Mauga. But main things that we want to be like really concerned about is that while we're going to be winning most of the trades, since they have 4 players and we have 5, we want to make sure that they're not able to like carry through any sort of big combination like that Valkyrie overclock. If we were not prepared to step onto their Sojourn as soon as they were going for a big play with their ultimate ability, we would have just kind of fallen over as a team. Which will make it rather unfortunate. Screw that cat in particular. Am I able to change these settings while I'm live? No, I'm not. Okay. They still do have their lever, I'd expect, unless they're like trying to win through the power of friendship and have the greatest mental of Masters 2 to GM1 ever. They're probably gonna leave soon. There it is. Very unfortunate game, and I'm kind of bummed about it because I'm just sort of marinating with the thought that I didn't record my mic audio last Eichenwald game, and I really don't know how I'm going to actually deal with that. Usually I recognize it early and I'm able to just dub over like one fight, but that was an entire game, which really sucks. But editing Eevee will figure something out. Sort of like recent controversy. But anyways, locking into the game, we have a soldier on Antarctic. I still don't know this map too well. I don't know this map too well. We're going to have a soldier and a Widowmaker. I'm thinking that's something that's going to take a lot of sort of attention and some pressure off of our shooters. Is going to be pretty strong here. I think that the thing is that there's a clear misconception of what good means to both sides. Yes, and that's, I think, the most important thing is you need to know what's good to you. If you are happy with your rank, then that's awesome. You should be proud. I could be leaning into a bit more Mauga, perhaps. Oh, with the Alar. Okay, I'm going Winston. Idea behind Winston here is that I'm going to be able to consistently look for hits inside of our DPS sight lines, as well as try and pressure and brawl onto them if need be. As I see our soldier taking this right side and our Lari, I'm just going to be trying to buffer this main area since our angle is going to be getting a lot of damage in pretty soon, but their team wants to be walking down our shooters. Unfortunately, we will be falling very quickly, and we're not going to find the damage that we really need to on the angles. Maybe I could be getting a little bit more active. As their Lucio sort of walks up, I want to be trying to look for a hit onto that, but they will be capping the point. They're going to be like on a mega super duper brawl comp. So I think that instead of trying to buffer and fight through that front line, my main advantages of my hero are going to be through my mobility. So I'm going to be trying to take space on the map. If my team gets ran down, they get ran down, but I need to be ready to sort of trade out onto the enemy's back line as quickly as I can. As I see their hazard on the right, I want to make sure they're not peeling yet. But their Lucio is going to see where I am, and same with their Emre, but that will open up my team to sort of shoot their guns a lot more. Going to be proccing my initiator healing through jumping off that little ledge, and I see them all on that right side, so that will give me a chance to actually step up. As I see their hazard getting active, it means that I will no longer have to worry about them peeling me, so I can actually go for a hit onto their backline. The rest of my team sort of floods in, and now I find the kill onto their Emre. Get their Baptiste very low, force out lamp wall, but we will get booped away, unfortunately, and things are going to be looking a little bit rough. Though our teammate is going to be resetting. We almost have our primal rage, and I want to be trying to play a little bit more through this open space. If I can control this right lane, I think it could be very good for my team. So I'm just going to be jumping over here, see if I'm baiting anyone towards me, looking like I baited the Lucio, and I hear their hazard staging close to. Genji, hazard, Lucio. I'm going to be jumping behind again. Lucio looking to continuously pressure us out and find the boops onto us. Unfortunately, we are going to get booped out, but we do peel some attention away from our team to allow them to maybe deal with the hazard, but with our lever, I think that it's going to be a little bit rough. Baptiste goes 1 HP, but we don't have anyone to really help follow up on that play, and I'm going to be 99 to primal, just barely, not able to clean it up. Really unfortunate, though our lever has come back into the game. Probably just a lot of internet issues. Definitely not something to get like worried about or concerned about. Well, I'm a little bit worried about, but nothing to get tilted over. So, thinking about how we want to be maybe taking this next sort of point, if we're struggling to find any value through our mobility and through our dives on Winston, I could definitely go and swap back onto that Mauga, which will be able to shut down their hazard quite easily, as well as get onto their Emre and their Baptiste, as makes just generally their entire comp a lot harder. But I do think that Winston's going to be fairly strong, especially on this point where it's going to be open, but there's going to be a lot of areas that we can sort of stage through and path to get onto their backline. With our teammate back here, I think I might actually spec into Mauga a bit after I die. So I'm going to be taking the space completely behind them. Their hazard looks for a wall onto me. I want to see if they're still peeling or if they're looking a bit more towards our front line, which will determine how aggressive I get on their back line. As I see a nade come out and I hear their hazard on our back line, it's going to mean that I am going to pressure their back line. Our Ana's looking for some heals onto me. And same thing, as I see their hazard getting active, it will mean that I have a bit of an opportunity to actually pressure their backline. But as their Emre is going to do a little bit too much damage, unfortunately, it will be too much for us and we will go down in that fight. Hazard's still alive. I'm going to try to stick just a bit, especially since we're on Brig now. With the Brig, it's going to make their Genji and Hazard's uptime onto our backline a little bit more difficult. We're trying to play into whip shots and pack. But with their hazard stepping onto our backline, I think it's time for us to get a bit more active onto this Baptiste. We find the kill, but I think that we'll go down in the process, and I probably will be swapping here. A little bit close to primal, but I think that that'll be fine. This will probably be a bit more in the direction that our team wants to be playing to win. So we're going to be stacking on our core a lot, trying to force out their hazard. Hazard does go down very, very early, which will enable us to just sort of walk onto the point. Since there's no threat to our backline, or very little threat to our backline, especially since we see their Genji in a weaker position, we're going to have a cycle to sort of live and sustain. I'm going to put my E onto my Nooning Cassidy, but unfortunately wall will not go down in time, and we're not going to find the value off of it. Hazard's on the point, so I'm going to be looking to pressure it a bit. Genji walking up this left side. As window gets used, I need to just be backing immediately as I can no longer poke out their team. Genji finds a kill onto our soldier, but our Brig bashes the hazard out of the spikes, which is amazing. I can be looking for a big play onto their backline. Now that their hazard's out, it's time for us to be looking to extend. So I slam their Emre, and we do find that kill. Baptiste is in on their backline, but I go for a too aggressive play when I probably could have just peeled for their hazard inside of our space instead of trying to get desperate and go for the kill onto their Baptiste. And it looks like this is going to be a bit of a rough game. I think that maybe I stayed on Winston a little bit too long, but with the leaves at the beginning as well as a few misplays by us, I think that's just going to be just a little bit too difficult for us to win that game. Unfortunately, it happens. Very a-okay. Reworks map and consolation though will put us in a decent spot. With GM1 64%. We've played 3 games. Hopefully we can get like about 1 more in. But we'll be losing that game. To someone who knows the game, seeing someone who should be good at the game doing stupid mistakes is obviously going to make them say they're bad players. Master support players, some of you legit have some sort of mental issue, because for a champ player who has played up to expert and was analyst to Masters Division team, what they do is unthinkably bad. Yeah, sometimes. But with the, like, it's all perspective. It's completely perspective based. If you're sort of judging it from the view or the lens of like what will sort of like perma win you games, get you up to champ, then master players will make a lot of mistakes, but that's why masters exists. Ranked is a pretty good reflection of your gameplay. So understanding, like, as the ranks get higher, and especially like at that top 1% plus, it will be scaling, sort of like the skill will scale exponentially, is a really important thing to sort of understand and stay like fair to any sort of like critiques that you're giving to any other players, I think. Since I never ever want to make people like actually feel bad about their ranks, since I think that in the end Overwatch is just a game. It's a game. A lot of people will be like, everybody wants to be enjoying themselves in some way playing. Sometimes, like, most players don't want to be going pro. Most players don't want to be trying to push the tippity top of the ladder. They want to enjoy themselves in some way or another, which is very okay. That is awesome. Video games are fun. They should be fun. So I don't ever want to make people feel bad about playing the game or wherever they are. I want to be able to help them achieve their goals if they want to be better. No matter where that might be, I can help with a wide variety of problems, because I've just played a lot of heroes up to, and I've gone through a wide variety of like skill levels through each heroes. So we're gonna have a Kiri, Juno, Freya, Junkrat. I'm going to probably I'm gonna try some Junker Queen here. Idea behind the Junker Queen is we're going to be able to use our Juno rings, hopefully to sort of like step onto their backline, as well as potentially find some displacement and some knives to just sort of clean up their team. We can be playing a little bit more aggressively because we have a lot of damage, or a lot of healing, I mean. As their Doomfist gets pretty close, Tracer gets 1 HP. Unfortunately, they will not be going down. Our team is kind of stacked on this angle, so I'm going to be... If we want to swing this, then I want to make sure that this Tracer is clear, but as I do that, our team wants to back up, which really sucks. That timing really sucks. We figured out that we didn't want to be stacking on the angle. Just a bit too late since I was trying to enable us to play through that right side. It happens. I could have double checked as soon as I started to walk onto the Tracer to see what my team was up to, but we do want to be taking a bit more of a... We want to be taking a bit more map space with our comp. Doomfist ends up behind, so I'm going to be trying to zone out the rest of their team here. Taking some damage, but their Tracer and Doomfist are just going to be staying in just a little bit too long. Maybe the better play is to clear out their Tracer Doomfist, but last time I tried that, things did not go too well, and I think that Junker Queen might be a bit too hard here, perhaps. Wrecking Ball could be decent. Winston could be pretty damn good, actually. But we will be losing the first point, which is A-okay. Going into our second one, I'm thinking about how I want to be utilizing our support ultimates. They're going to be on the field soon. We have our Juno Ray as well as our Kitsune Rush. I want to be looking for some knives onto the squishies, because especially with their Mercy, it's going to mean that their Cassie's pumping in so much damage over time that we really want to be like marking out and getting onto their cast the best that we can, but it's just becoming very difficult in a lot of these games, or in a lot of these fights. Mercy finds the res onto their Kiriko, so I'm going to be backing up towards the point, especially since the rest of my team is leaning there. Mercy is still in their Valkyrie. I'm going to give their Doomfist punch, but making sure that I take it onto myself in open space. I'm not going to get against a wall for them to punch into me. Missing the knife onto the Mercy, unfortunately, but as their Cassie walks up a bit, I want to make sure that I'm not giving them any sort of big free advantage fight. I'm going to shout my Cassie as they try to take that 1v1, just giving them sort of any advantage that I can, especially since I have my Queen ult coming up. I'm not going to super need my shout early. Doomfist on that left side, Hinder comes out and Punch comes out. That's going to be my trigger to use my ult, but as we use both our Noon and our Kitsune Rush, it's going to mean that it's harder for us to really use ours, because if we use our Junker Queen ult while we use the other two of our High Noon and our Kitsune Rush, we would have been putting ourselves at an ult disadvantage for next fight. If we overcommit ultimates for this fight, then it means that their team was going to be able to turn the game a little bit later with their own ultimate advantages, because we would not have ours in time to sort of like match. Mercy goes 1 HP, but unfortunately we're not able to clean it up. Doomfist is close. And our Cassie hits a nice Hinder onto their Doom, which will allow us to clean up that point. And now we go on to the next one. Thinking about Junker Queen ult, I really want to force Suzu. If we force Suzu and Flash, I think that we're going to be looking at a pretty good spot. Doomfist does swap. A little bit scared of like seeing an Orisa, perhaps. Orisa could be putting us in a pretty bad spot, or Zarya. Zarya is also going to be a fairly decent counter to Junker Queen, especially with our ultimate online. The bubbles are going to cleanse the anti-effect that we put onto the team. I would normally Queen ult that, but as they have their bubbles, I was very hesitant, but as their bubble ended, I knew that they wouldn't be able to bubble their Cassie twice in a row. So I wanted to go for that play, but unfortunately they still had their Suzu ready to negate the effect. And the rest of their team is going to be walking up. I think that Junker Queen might be a little bit too hard mechanically to find value on for me right now. You definitely could be able to play Queen into this. It's just really hard. You just need to hit a lot of your knives, which I'm not right now. So thinking about who we would want to swap to, Doomfist might not be bad. Reinhardt, Mauga. Mauga would actually be pretty good, I think. Maybe it's just a Mauga day. Mauga is going to be in a fairly strong spot right now, especially if you're playing into a lot of like cat bastions, because bastion's going to be very like bastion's actually going to have a losing trade against Mauga. I just blow up. I just blow up. Oh well. And Zarya is going to be walking down our Junkrat, but I think that the Mauga is going to be a very good play for us. They just happened to use their grab, and then we popped our Kitsune Rush as we were down 1. So to try to find value onto it, I looked to step up onto the point, but since we were down 1, it's going to be very, very hard to convert that fight into a win. Zarya on that right side, and our Juno is 50 array, our Junkrat's 50 attire. I think that they are going to be closing some ults pretty soon here. I think specifically Valkyrie, Pulse Bomb, and maybe their own High Noon. I'm saying their Kiriko on fire. I want to be trying to poke out this Mercy the best that I can. Mercy is going to be like a very big early prio, especially since they have their Valk. And as soon as Valk gets forced, it's going to be amazing for us because now we're going to be able to take a fight on the point without their Valkyrie as a factor, especially since our Junkrat finds an amazing kill onto... Where my team at? I should have double checked. It was my fault for not checking where we were positioned, as I saw my Junkrat find the kill onto their Mercy. I should have checked to see where my team was and what plays we could actually follow up on, but because I didn't, I went in and my team was not ready to sort of support and fight with me. An awareness fail by me. So now for the rest of this game, I'm going to be looking a little bit more deliberately at where my team wants to be playing and what fights we want to be taking. Pulse Bomb found onto our Junkrat, but we are still very far back looking at their Tracer, so it's going to mean that we need to be playing fairly safe here. Grav comes out, but I think that we can maybe still win this, so I'm going to be looking for my Cage and just enabling my Cassidy to sort of gun them down. Tracer gets very, very close, and the rest of our team is cleaning up that fight. Cassidy is on fire on that left side, but unfortunately I think that I'm not able to follow up since capping the point is going to be very, very important here. As we cap the point, I'm going to be looking for a play onto this Cassidy and Mercy. I think that I could win the 1v2, but as their Tracer gets here, I want to be backing up since I'm no longer able to win that 1v3. There's just going to be a little bit too much damage onto us, and we can actually self-heal. Taking a look at where my team is, my Juno is going to be in a pretty scary spot, so I'm going to see if I can maybe take some attention from this Cassie, as I see a lot of their team walking up towards the point, and I know that my team is not ready to yet fight on the point. I'm just going to be backing up and trying to live the best that I can as they pop their Kitsune Rush as well, as I'm fairly low. I want to be chilling and waiting for my cooldowns to come back and my heal and my HP to be high enough to the point where I actually can take a fight on the point, especially since they have their bubbles and their sooooo. It's going to be hard to really rely on my self-healing in big brawl team fights like that, because there are a lot of ways that my self-healing can get cleansed. But they do want to be contesting this, so I'm going to be pinning back towards the point, trying to find a kill onto the Tracer. Unfortunately, falling just a little bit short. Valkyrie comes out. We do have our High Noon. An amazing trap onto the Tracer. Unfortunately, we're not able to find that kill ourselves. Getting onto the Zarya, and another amazing trap. Our Junkrat is turbo carrying this game with Mercy walking up and their Kiriko using their TP. We are going to be making this series into a 2-2 flashpoint final. So, looking into this next point here, they were going to use a few of their ultimates a bit ago, but now they're going to be coming back on Rush in a second. Not exactly having Grav yet, but they're going to be fairly close if the fight goes along. Now they are on the Ana. That's going to be something very important for us to consider and to care as we sort of think about our positioning and our posture. So, whoa. Since their Ana is sort of main, it's going to be really hard for us to actually walk in, because if we get anti-nated, it's somewhat unreliable for our sooooo to actually come onto us. We just want to give the option for our Kiriko to sooooo us and not actually force it, especially since we're not in comms or anything. So with our Zarya on left side, their Ana sitting back on point. Our team is walking up this main area. sooooo from our team gets used. I'll make sure that I'm trying to clear the space that we really need. Taking more looks at my team. I'd like to take co-side here. And then look for my cage on the point. Ideally zoning out their Ana. And we do find the cage onto their Zarya. Ana walks in to find the nade onto us, and I'm going to be backing up just short, or just too late, but our Junkrat finds an amazing tire onto our cage. As they're all grouped up and they're Ana forced to walk into our cage, our Junkrat tire is going to find a bunch of value, and now we are looking to be in a very good spot on the point. Main thing that we need to be worried about is probably their overclock and their grav coming up pretty soon. Graviton Surge gets used. I want to be taking a lot of attention here. We use both of our support ults, but I'm going to be stepping onto their Zarya. So now we are in a bit of a pickle, actually. They use their Graviton Surge. They're going to have their overclock in just a moment, as well as their Nano pretty soon, which is a very, very deadly combo. And I think that maybe I need to be looking for a more aggressive play. Our High Noon is a win condition, especially with the Domina shield, though. I think that it might not be the one that we really need to play for. The Sojourn's walking up main. I'm taking a little bit too much damage, and I'm here. I'm just going to be forced to play for our High Noon win condition, but unfortunately our Juno is going to be going down, and I will be going down very shortly after. They're going to use their Kitsune Rush and their overclock, making it very difficult for us to win that point. I'm swapping ball to try and get a touch here, and I will be successful in doing so. I want to make sure that I live the best that I can. Sojourn's looking main. I can probably get one more, but their Domina hits a double push onto me and the Tracer, and we will be losing this game, unfortunately. Not quite able to get up to champ, I think. Kind of a shame, but I do think that I'm gradually playing worse as time goes on. I know why. It's because I didn't sleep that much, and I woke up very early and didn't sleep too much for the tournament, though I was definitely well within my capabilities of playing for quite some time. I think that we might now be reaching my physical limit of attention. So I think that it might be time for us to stop our queue for today. Kind of an unfortunate game to end it on. I definitely could have won that if I was sticking to my gut a little bit more and going for a more aggressive play rather than a passive one in that last fight. We would have probably been able to turn things around. But alas, sometimes these things will happen. As long as you are taking care of yourself and making sure that you're ready to queue the next day to try to get that champ back, things will be much, much better. So for my YouTube audience, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.